Okay, as you can see, I've been around for a little while. And in fact, it's so lovely to see so many young women in here. In fact, quite a few of you are actually younger than my shoes. I want to talk about some of the things that have changed in my life, that have affected my life, and this is the first. I don't believe there would be as many people in this room today without the invention of the washing machine. When I was a child, I'd watch my mother do that every day. Colour television came in, we actually got to see the blue creatures on Star Trek. But don't think that things come around quickly. If you look in his hand, he's holding a mobile phone. Dreaming about those since the 60s. 1975, the Sex Discrimination Act came in and I met this machine, the bench lathe. I was one of the first girls ever to do woodwork at school. I failed miserably. I was 6 years behind the boys. I went back to evening class and I went back a year later and I passed because I realised that it wasn't enough just to be there, you actually had to compete as well. So I loved woodwork, but I hated biology. But this poster was on the wall of my biology lab and it was the inspiration for me to get into advertising. I wanted to do something that powerful, and frankly to this day I still think it's the best poster I've ever seen.
Oh my God.
The man that wrote that, Sir Charles Saatchi, or Charlie as we knew him, came to my art school and asked us all what we wanted to be famous for. The boys said they wanted to be famous for sports car and beer. I said I wanted to do the world's greatest washing powder commercial. He said I'd go far. I'm not sure whether he was right or not. Now, this was an instrument of torture at art school. It's called a Grant enlarger. And to do your layouts, you put your head in there and you stuck your bum out here. My teacher came up to me one day and pinched me on the bum. I was horrified. And he said, "Jane, you're getting into a creative department. You're going to have an answer like that, like that, like that, like that, like that." It was one of the best pieces of advice I was ever given. I got my first job, and funnily enough, the first thing I ever worked on was beer. And humming a cool darling, which was an awful lot of fun. I was the first girl ever in a creative department, and I worked with a copywriter who was black and crippled. We said all we needed was for one of us to have an unusual sexuality, and we've got the lot. Back in the workforce comes back the Grant enlarger. One night, working late on a pitch, the CEO came up and tried to dry hump me from behind. I told him that he should go and try and dry hump the boy over there because they paid him more than me. The next day, I got a pay rise. I got what he was on, and I had my salary doubled. Then came along a really scary time. These things were coming out called computers. We had no idea what they were, what they did, why anybody would want them. It took us 8 hours to add 8 plus 8 on this machine. So we ended up playing Cuthbert in the Jungle, which, if you Google that, it is pathetic. Nobody knew about it. Our secretaries had gone on typewriters. The first document that we did for a software company, she put 84 pages with floppy dicks in there. She had to go and feed it back through there and change every single page. Now, the people at the software company had no idea of how to tell me what words processing was. They kept on talking about how I had 320 RAM of memory. I finally said, "What is it?" And they said, "Well, with this, your secretary could have got rid of the floppy disks in one keystroke." So, and from that moment, I was sold. The same geeks wanted me to go out to dinner with their boss on the Thursday night. It was probably the biggest mistake I've ever made in the whole of my life because I went out with that guy instead. I moved to Australia and this wonderful piece of technology was there. It's called the telex machine. It had its own little room with a telex operator. It was the cheapest way of communicating with my family back at home, so please don't think you're the only people that can communicate in 140 characters or less. So, it made the fax machine look absolutely incredible, and my first mobile phone. It gave me so much freedom. It's quite interesting, I also had back surgery at the same time. I don't know whether they're quite connected. But it gave me freedom to be able to get out of the office, and frankly, I wanted to get out of the office. I was working at the biggest beer agency in town, and in the early 90s, I was still the first girl in the creative department. They wouldn't let me work on beer because I didn't drink it. They didn't seem to understand that I didn't read the Woman's Weekly either. One of the advantages of working on girly things was I actually managed to get to make a washing powder commercial. But it seemed no matter how many awards I won, how successful I was, I was still being held back by two things. This was a headline that actually ran after I won a few awards at the Caxtons and Campaign Brief. I was also taken out to lunch by the headhunter in town and told there would never be a female creative director, so to forget about it. So I decided to set up my own advertising agency. Woo! My first clients, believe it or not, were a sports car and a beer. Chuck Hahn, when he gave me his beer account, asked me why you should give his account to a woman, and I said because men have been advertising tampons for years. Over the next 10 years, we created a number of beers for James Squire. After 18 months, Chuck actually found out that I didn't drink beer. I was pregnant when I got the account and I'd been breastfeeding. But after 18 months, he really didn't care because he was happy with what I've done. And since then, running my own agency, I've been able to do whatever I want. And I would say to all of you, really imagine what you want, really clearly state what you want is what you want to do, where you want to be, and be true to yourself. And don't be afraid of spending money on expensive shoes because 25 years later you'll still be wearing them.